March 1, 1943. At Rabaul Naval Base, Imperial Japanese Navy commanders finalized preparations for Operation 81, a critical convoy mission to reinforce the strategically vital garrison at Lae, New Guinea. According to Japanese naval records, 8 Maru-class transports were loaded with 6,912 soldiers from the elite 51st Division, plus 200 naval personnel, essential ammunition, medical supplies, and 3 months of food reserves. 8 destroyers under Rear Admiral Masatomi Kimura would provide escort through the 647-mile journey across the Bismarck Sea. Japanese intelligence calculated a 60-hour transit time with favorable weather forecasts predicting cloud cover over the target route. Previous reinforcement convoys had successfully reached Lae using similar tactics. Imperial General Headquarters expected routine execution of a standard supply operation that would secure Japanese positions against mounting Allied pressure in New Guinea. Within 72 hours, this convoy would be completely annihilated in what became the Battle of the Bismarck Sea. In just 15 minutes of concentrated skip-bombing attacks on March 3rd, American B-25 Mitchell bombers would demonstrate a revolutionary anti-shipping tactic that fundamentally altered naval warfare. Every single Japanese transport would be destroyed. The strategic consequences would reshape the entire New Guinea campaign. This was the moment when Allied air power proved it could single-handedly eliminate enemy naval forces in open waters without surface ship or submarine involvement. Subscribe now and tell us in the comments if you knew about this forgotten battle that established air supremacy doctrine for the remainder of World War II. The strategic situation in New Guinea by early 1943 demanded urgent Japanese action. General Douglas MacArthur's Allied forces had established footholds along the Papuan Peninsula and were advancing steadily toward Japanese strongholds. The airfield complex at Lae represented the linchpin of Japanese defenses in the Southwest Pacific, controlling air routes to Rabaul and providing staging areas for operations against Australian territory. The broader Pacific context made New Guinea's defense critical to Japanese strategic planning. Control of New Guinea's airfields enabled Japanese forces to threaten Allied shipping routes between Australia and the United States, potentially severing the logistics lifeline that sustained Allied operations in the Pacific theater. Japanese planners recognized that loss of New Guinea would expose the Philippine archipelago to Allied assault, creating a direct threat to the Japanese home islands through the island-hopping strategy already evident in Allied operations. Furthermore, Japanese industrial capacity was becoming increasingly strained by the demands of global warfare. The loss of experienced troops and equipment in convoy operations represented irreplaceable resources that Japan could not afford to sacrifice. Every failed reinforcement mission reduced Japanese capability to defend existing positions while simultaneously strengthening Allied confidence in their air power capabilities. The strategic mathematics of attrition warfare clearly favored Allied forces with their superior industrial production and training capabilities. Intelligence reports reaching Tokyo indicated Allied forces were massing for a major offensive against Lae. The existing Japanese garrison of approximately 8,000 troops required immediate reinforcement to withstand anticipated assault. Traditional supply methods using fast destroyer runs delivered insufficient cargo capacity for the scale of reinforcement needed. Only a major convoy operation could transport the required personnel and equipment. The Japanese convoy composition reflected the operation's critical importance. According to Imperial Navy manifests, transport vessels included Kyokusei Maru, 6,493 tons, Teiyo Maru, 6,870 tons, Nojima Maru, 6,586 tons, Ayo Maru, 7,389 tons, Kembu Maru, 6,435 tons, Oigawa Maru, 6,493 tons, Sinai Maru, 5,257 tons, and Taime Maru, 6,995 tons. Each transport carried between 800 and 900 soldiers with full combat equipment, including Type 99 rifles, mortars, machine guns, and artillery pieces. Escort destroyers: Shirayuki, flagship; Tokitsukaze, Yukikaze, Asashio, Arashio, Asagamo, Shikinami, and Uranami. Rear Admiral Masatomi Kimura flew his flag in Shirayuki. Japanese naval specifications listed these warships at between 2,000 and 2,500 tons each, with the escort equipped with 5-inch dual-purpose guns, multiple 25mm anti-aircraft weapons, and heavy machine guns. According to Imperial Navy doctrine, destroyers were positioned to provide overlapping defensive fire zones. Japanese naval procedure emphasized tight convoy formation with destroyers positioned for coordinated defense. Standard operating instructions called for zigzag courses at 12-knot cruising speed, with emergency acceleration to 18 knots if attacked. Weather routing would take advantage of cloud cover and rain squalls to minimize Allied air reconnaissance opportunities. Unknown to Japanese planners, Allied codebreakers had achieved comprehensive penetration of Imperial Navy communications through the Magic Intelligence Program. Radio intercepts revealed complete details of Operation 81, including departure time, route coordinates, speed calculations, and final destination. Allied intelligence officers possessed more detailed information about the convoy than many Japanese participants. General George Kenney, commanding the U.S. 5th Air Force, received intercepted Japanese communications within 6 hours of their transmission. Coordination with Royal Australian Air Force headquarters in Brisbane immediately began preparation of the largest Allied air operation attempted in the Southwest Pacific Theatre. The combined strike force would employ tactics never before used in coordinated anti-shipping warfare. Allied air assets available for the operation included B-17 Flying Fortresses from the 43rd Bombardment Group, B-25 Mitchell medium bombers from the 3rd and 38th Bombardment Groups, Ray AF Beaufighter twin-engine fighters, P-38 Lightning escorts, and Australian Bristol Beaufort torpedo bombers. 5th Air Force records indicated total aircraft strength of approximately 90 to 100 machines, representing the maximum Allied air power concentration possible in the region. The most significant element involved modified B-25C and B-25D aircraft, configured specifically for low-level anti-shipping attacks. These bombers carried experimental armament packages developed through months of tactical innovation by 5th Air Force personnel. The modification process required extensive structural reinforcement of nose sections to accommodate the increased weight and recoil forces of multiple machine guns. Forward-firing weaponry included 8 .50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns mounted in reinforced nose sections, capable of delivering concentrated machine gun fire at rates exceeding 800 rounds per minute per weapon. Engineering modifications also included removal of the bombardier position to make room for additional ammunition storage, carrying approximately 2,400 rounds per gun for sustained firing during strafing runs. The aircraft's fuel capacity was adjusted to accommodate the weight of additional armament while maintaining operational range requirements for missions over the Bismarck Sea. Pilots required specialized training to handle the modified aircraft's altered center of gravity and the tremendous recoil forces generated during sustained machine gun fire, which could affect flight stability during critical attack approaches. Bomb loads consisted of 4 500-pound AN-M64 general-purpose bombs, or 2 1,000-pound AN-M65 weapons specifically configured for skip bombing attacks. This revolutionary technique involved approaching targets at masthead height and releasing ordnance to skip across water surfaces before impacting ship hulls at or below the waterline, where armor protection was minimal. Skip bombing required extensive pilot training and precise timing under combat conditions. According to training manuals developed by the 5th Air Force, aircraft approach targets at 50 to 60 feet altitude, maintaining 260-280 miles per hour airspeed. Bomb release occurred at ranges between 300 to 600 yards from targets, depending on sea conditions and target speed. Training exercises indicated properly executed attacks achieved substantially higher hit probabilities compared to conventional high-altitude bombing against moving ships. The technique demanded exceptional pilot skill and nerve, as aircraft had to maintain precise altitude and speed while approaching heavily defended targets at masthead height. Training protocols emphasized the critical importance of bomb release timing. Too early, and the weapons would skip over the target. Too late, and they would detonate against the ship's superstructure rather than penetrating below the waterline. Pilots practiced against stationary targets before progressing to moving ships, learning to compensate for target movement, wind conditions, and the natural bounce characteristics of bombs across water surfaces. Bomb fusing required special modification to ensure detonation after penetrating ship hulls rather than exploding on impact with water. Ordnance specialists developed delayed action fuses that would arm during the skipping process and detonate only after striking solid targets. The technique also required specific approach angles to achieve optimal skip patterns. Bombs released at shallow angles would skip multiple times with reduced impact energy, while steep angles might cause immediate detonation on water contact. Training exercises conducted throughout February 1943 demonstrated skip bombing effectiveness against stationary and towed targets. Pilots from the 3rd and 38th Bombardment Groups practiced the technique until achieving consistent accuracy under simulated combat conditions. The revolutionary tactic remained classified to prevent Japanese development of effective countermeasures. Allied intelligence maintained continuous surveillance of Japanese convoy movements from departure. Long-range B-25 Liberator reconnaissance aircraft tracked the formation every 4 hours, transmitting position reports via encrypted radio communications. Weather reports indicated conditions remained favorable for the planned aerial ambush, with scattered clouds providing concealment while maintaining adequate visibility for precision attacks. March 2, 1943. According to the after-action report of the 43rd Bombardment Group, at 10:15 hours, 8 B-17 Flying Fortresses established initial contact with the Japanese convoy approximately 120 miles northeast of Cape Gloucester. The bombers attacked from 6,500 feet altitude, achieving near misses on several transports and scoring direct hits on Kyokusei Maru. The attack forced Japanese ships to abandon tight formation and commence evasive maneuvers. Japanese anti-aircraft response proved intense but largely ineffective against high-altitude bombers. The escort vessels were equipped with 5-inch dual-purpose guns, 25mm anti-aircraft weapons, and heavy machine guns. But U.S. Army Air Force's intelligence analysis indicated effective range limitations, and lack of radar fire control systems severely reduced accuracy against targets above 5,000 feet altitude. According to the 43rd Bombardment Group after-action report, Kyokusei Maru sustained critical damage during the March 2nd attacks and subsequently sank. Japanese destroyer crews conducted rescue operations under continued air threat, picking up survivors from the water while maintaining convoy movement toward Leh. The loss of the first transport demonstrated Allied air power capability and forced Japanese tactical adjustments. The initial bombing attack achieved its primary objective of disrupting convoy cohesion and forcing ships to scatter across several square miles of ocean. Japanese formation discipline collapsed as individual captains maneuvered independently to avoid further bombing runs. This dispersal would prove catastrophic when facing coordinated low-level attacks planned for the following day. Throughout the afternoon of March the 2nd, RAF Beaufighter squadrons maintained pressure on scattered Japanese ships. Twin-engine fighters approached at wave-top height, engaging anti-aircraft positions with 20mm cannon fire and multiple 303 machine guns. These attacks systematically eliminated Japanese gunners and destroyed defensive equipment while avoiding concentrated return fire. Beaufighter attacks also served crucial intelligence functions, photographing damage from high-altitude bombing and identifying priority targets for skip bombing attacks. Reconnaissance photographs revealed that several destroyers showed evidence of damage from near-miss explosions and strafing runs, while remaining transports continued toward Leh under reduced escort protection. Japanese convoy commander Rear Admiral Kimura recognized his increasingly desperate tactical situation. Radio communications with Rabaul confirmed no fighter escort was available due to aircraft shortages and fuel limitations. Weather forecasts predicted no improvement in cloud cover that might provide natural concealment. The convoy faced another 300 miles of open water before reaching coastal defense zones around Leh. Kimura ordered maximum sustainable speed toward the destination, accepting increased fuel consumption and mechanical stress in exchange for reduced exposure time to Allied air attacks. Individual ship captains received authorization to maneuver independently while maintaining general course toward Leh. This decision eliminated any possibility of coordinated anti-aircraft defense, but potentially reduced target density for bombing attacks. Japanese crews spent the night of March 2nd-3rd conducting damage control and preparing defensive positions for the major assault they anticipated at dawn. Medical personnel treated casualties from the day's attacks, while ammunition handlers redistributed anti-aircraft rounds to functional gun positions. According to captured Japanese documents, morale remained high despite recognition that survival depended entirely on reaching Leh before Allied forces could mount decisive attacks. March 3, 1943. At 07:30 hours, the decisive phase of the Battle of the Bismarck Sea commenced with the largest coordinated Allied airstrike in the Southwest Pacific to that date. Weather conditions proved optimal for Allied operations. Scattered clouds at 2,000 feet with unlimited visibility below, calm seas ideal for skip bombing techniques, and light winds that would not affect bomb trajectories. Japanese ships remained scattered across approximately 20 square miles of ocean, eliminating mutual defensive support while presenting individual targets for concentrated attack. The coordinated assault employed approximately 90 to 100 Allied aircraft in carefully planned phases designed to overwhelm Japanese defenses through sequential attacks. B-17 Flying Fortresses initiated the attack from 7,000 feet altitude, forcing Japanese ships into evasive maneuvers while disrupting anti-aircraft fire coordination. RAF Beaufighters followed at masthead height, systematically destroying remaining defensive positions with cannon and machine gun fire. Then came the modified B-25 Mitchell bombers, employing skip bombing for the first time in large-scale combat operations. According to the 5th Air Force Combat Report, B-25s from the 3rd Bombardment Group approached scattered Japanese transports at 50 feet altitude in coordinated attacks, timed to achieve maximum surprise and concentration of firepower. Lead elements targeted the remaining transports, as Kyokusei Maru had already been sunk during the previous day's high-altitude bombing attacks, according to the 43rd Bombardment Group after-action report. The skip bombing attack sequence demonstrated devastating effectiveness against unarmored merchant vessels. At optimal range, B-25 nose-mounted machine guns opened concentrated fire, sending sustained bursts into transport bridges, superstructures, and deck areas. Japanese personnel caught in the open were eliminated, while anti-aircraft gun crews abandoned their positions under overwhelming firepower. The attacking B-25s released 4 500-pound bombs configured for skip bombing. The weapons struck the water surface at optimal angles, skipping before impacting ship hulls approximately 6 feet below the waterline. Explosions created breaches in ship sides, flooding multiple compartments and destroying bulkhead integrity. According to Japanese survivor testimony collected by Allied intelligence, the remaining transports developed immediate lists as flooding overwhelmed damage control capabilities. The transports capsized and sank, with survivors in the water facing strafing attacks from follow-up aircraft as part of Allied doctrine aimed at eliminating enemy personnel. Allied combat reports describe a concentrated skip bombing phase of roughly 15 minutes in which the remaining transports were fatally hit. The coordinated attacks destroyed the remaining 7 transports within this concentrated assault period. The after-action report of the 38th Bombardment Group documented that B-25s simultaneously engaged Teiyo Maru, Nojima Maru, Ayo Maru, Kembu Maru, Oigawa Maru, Sinai Maru, and Taimei Maru using identical tactics. After-action evaluations recorded substantially higher hit rates for skip bombing compared to high-altitude bombing against moving ships. Transport Ayo Maru attempted escape by steering into a rain squall approximately 2 miles distant, but pursuing B-25s maintained visual contact through the weather disturbance. Concentrated machine gun fire eliminated personnel on deck, while multiple bombs penetrated the hull below the waterline. According to U.S. Navy damage assessment reports, the 389-ton vessel suffered catastrophic flooding and sank. Destroyer Asashio tried to defend nearby transports by laying smoke screens and providing concentrated anti-aircraft fire. 2 B-25s coordinated attacks against the warship, overwhelming defensive capabilities through simultaneous approaches from different bearings. Machine gun fire eliminated bridge personnel and destroyed fire control systems, while bombs penetrated the destroyer's armor protection. According to combat reports, explosions from Asashio's forward magazine caused structural failure that broke the destroyer apart. The warship sank rapidly with minimal survivors. 3 additional destroyers, Shirayuki, Tokitsukaze, and Arashio, suffered similar fates during the concentrated 15-minute assault period documented in Allied combat reports. Within 15 minutes of the concentrated skip bombing phase, all remaining Japanese transports were either sinking or had already disappeared beneath the Pacific Ocean. 4 destroyers joined the transports on the ocean floor, while the surviving destroyer escorts were severely damaged with reduced crews and limited combat capability. According to 5th Air Force loss reports, Allied aircraft casualties during the decisive attack phase totaled 1 B-25 bomber shot down by concentrated anti-aircraft fire and 2 additional aircraft damaged but returning to base. Crew casualties included 3 killed and 2 wounded, an exchange ratio that demonstrated overwhelming tactical superiority achieved through innovation and coordinated execution. The human cost of the convoy's destruction proved staggering by any military standard. Of 6,912 soldiers embarked on the 8 transports, Allied intelligence estimates indicate approximately 3,000 died either in the sinking ships or subsequently drowned in oil-covered waters. Japanese survivors faced additional casualties as Allied aircraft strafed lifeboats and debris fields, a practice reflecting the brutal logic of the Pacific War, where captured territory and eliminated personnel reduced enemy capability. Destroyer Yukikaze and surviving escort vessels rescued approximately 1,200 survivors during the 12 hours following the main attack, according to Allied intelligence estimates. However, according to Japanese medical reports, these personnel were wounded, demoralized, and completely without combat equipment. Medical supplies, ammunition, food stores, and heavy weapons all rested on the ocean floor, along with the destroyed transports. The few hundred soldiers who eventually reached Lae represented less than 10% of the intended reinforcement, according to Japanese garrison reports. These survivors required weeks of medical treatment and re-equipment before achieving minimal combat effectiveness. The garrison reinforcement mission had failed completely, achieving none of its strategic objectives while eliminating irreplaceable veteran personnel and equipment. March 4, 1943, witnessed continued Allied air attacks against scattered survivors and remaining destroyer escorts attempting to rescue personnel from the water. These follow-up operations eliminated additional Japanese personnel while preventing effective rescue operations. The few destroyer escorts capable of movement departed the area after dark, abandoning hundreds of survivors to conserve fuel and avoid further losses. Allied intelligence analysis of the battle results revealed tactical and strategic implications that would influence anti-shipping warfare for the remainder of World War II. Skip bombing had achieved unprecedented effectiveness against surface targets, demonstrating that properly trained and equipped medium bombers could eliminate any naval formation within their operational range. Technical analysis conducted by the Army Air Forces indicated that skip bombing attacks achieved three critical advantages over conventional high-altitude bombing: dramatically increased accuracy against moving targets, ability to strike ships below the waterline where armor protection was minimal, and virtual immunity from anti-aircraft defense due to approach altitude and speed. These factors combined to create an unstoppable tactical system when properly executed. The Battle of the Bismarck Sea marked one of the earliest decisive demonstrations in which land-based air power alone annihilated a major convoy in open waters without surface ship or submarine involvement. Previous naval aviation successes had typically supported fleet operations or provided reconnaissance. The complete destruction of a major convoy by aircraft demonstrated that air forces could achieve independent strategic effects. Strategic consequences of the convoy's destruction extended far beyond the immediate tactical victory. Japan's inability to reinforce Lae by conventional convoy operations forced adoption of less efficient supply methods that severely limited cargo capacity. Future reinforcement efforts relied primarily on fast destroyer runs under cover of darkness, carrying perhaps 10% of the supplies possible with conventional transports. The psychological impact on Japanese military leadership proved equally significant. Survivor testimonies collected by Allied intelligence described complete helplessness against coordinated Allied air attacks, employing tactics that Japanese forces could not counter with existing equipment and doctrine. The speed and precision of Allied operations suggested technological and tactical superiority that Japanese commanders recognized they could not match with available resources. Japanese naval doctrine required fundamental revision to address the demonstrated vulnerability of surface ships to land-based air attack. Convoy operations within range of Allied airfields became effectively impossible, constraining Japanese strategic mobility throughout the Southwest Pacific. This limitation would prove decisive during subsequent Allied offensives in New Guinea and the Philippines. Allied aircrew confidence increased dramatically following the successful demonstration of skip bombing effectiveness under combat conditions. The technique provided bomber crews with precise, reliable weapons against enemy shipping that achieved immediate and visible results. Training programs expanded rapidly to equip additional bombardment groups with skip bombing capability. Intelligence gained during the battle provided crucial insights into Japanese convoy operations, defensive procedures, and communication methods. Radio intercepts revealed Japanese damage control techniques, tactical responses to air attack, and coordination procedures between convoy and escort elements. This information proved invaluable for planning subsequent anti-shipping operations throughout the Pacific theater. The success at Bismarck Sea influenced Allied strategic planning for the remainder of the Pacific War. Long-range bomber units received priority allocation for anti-shipping armament and specialized training. Carrier aviation adopted modified skip bombing techniques for use against Japanese fleet units. The doctrine of air supremacy over sea lanes became fundamental to Allied victory strategy. Skip bombing tactical development continued throughout 1943, with refinements in bomb fusing, approach techniques, and target selection. According to Army Air Forces records, by year's end, modified B-25s had destroyed over 100 additional Japanese vessels using the technique first proven over the Bismarck Sea. Post-war analyses credit skip bombing with a significant share of Japanese merchant shipping losses in the Southwest Pacific area. The battle also demonstrated the decisive importance of intelligence in modern warfare. Magic codebreaking had provided complete advanced knowledge of Japanese operations, enabling Allied forces to position aircraft for maximum effectiveness. The combination of intelligence superiority and tactical innovation proved unstoppable against conventional defensive methods. For Japanese forces defending Leh, the convoy's destruction sealed their ultimate fate. Without adequate reinforcement and resupply, the garrison fell to Allied ground assault 4 months later, in September 1943. The capture of Leh provided Allied forces with advanced airfields for subsequent operations against Rabaul and the Philippines, fundamentally altering the strategic balance in the Southwest Pacific. The immediate tactical success at Bismarck Sea enabled Allied forces to accelerate their timetable for subsequent operations throughout New Guinea. With Japanese naval reinforcement capabilities effectively neutralized, Allied commanders could plan amphibious assaults with reduced concern about enemy naval interference. This strategic advantage allowed for the rapid capture of additional airfields at Finschhafen, Hollandia, and other critical locations along the New Guinea coast. Japanese defensive strategy throughout the Southwest Pacific required fundamental revision following the convoy's destruction. Traditional Japanese tactics emphasized holding key positions at all costs, but the inability to reinforce or resupply these positions made such strategies unsustainable. Japanese commanders were forced to adopt mobile defense tactics, abandoning fixed positions in favor of delaying actions designed to slow Allied advances rather than stopping them entirely. The psychological impact on Japanese military planning extended beyond immediate tactical considerations. Staff officers at Imperial General Headquarters recognized that Allied air power had achieved technological and tactical superiority that Japanese forces could not match with existing equipment and training. This realization influenced Japanese strategy for the remainder of the Pacific War, leading to increased emphasis on defensive operations and reduced confidence in offensive capabilities. According to post-war historical analysis, modern anti-ship warfare continues to reflect tactical principles established during the Battle of the Bismarck Sea. Contemporary anti-ship missiles employ approach profiles similar to skip bombing, flying at wave-top height before striking targets below the waterline. Aircraft remain the primary threat to surface vessels, requiring sophisticated defensive systems and coordinated fleet operations for survival. The battle's influence on post-war military doctrine extended far beyond anti-shipping tactics. The demonstration that coordinated air power could achieve decisive strategic results without surface naval support fundamentally altered military planning priorities. Post-war naval construction programs emphasized aircraft carriers over battleships, recognizing that aviation assets provided superior flexibility and striking power compared to traditional heavy gun platforms. Military academies worldwide studied the Bismarck Sea engagement as a classic example of how technological innovation, combined with tactical creativity, could overcome conventional defensive advantages. The battle became a standard case study in air-sea warfare, demonstrating the importance of intelligence superiority, crew training, and equipment modification in achieving battlefield success. Modern military doctrine continues to emphasize these principles, with electronic warfare, precision-guided munitions, and real-time intelligence sharing representing evolutionary developments of concepts first proven over the Bismarck Sea. The engagement also highlighted the critical importance of logistics and supply line protection in modern warfare. Contemporary military planning recognizes that disrupting enemy supply capabilities can achieve strategic objectives more efficiently than direct engagement of combat forces. This principle influences current doctrines for naval blockade, economic warfare, and strategic bombing campaigns designed to cripple enemy industrial and transportation capabilities. The 15-minute destruction of remaining Japanese ships on March 3, 1943, proved that concentrated aerial assault, employing innovative tactics, could achieve decisive strategic results in minimal time. Allied air power had demonstrated its ability to control sea lanes and determine campaign outcomes through tactical innovation, superior training, and coordinated execution. The Battle of the Bismarck Sea represented the convergence of intelligence, technology, and tactics that characterized Allied victory in World War II. Allied codebreaking, magic, provided advance warning, technical innovation created effective weapons, and tactical training enabled precise execution under combat conditions. This combination proved sufficient to eliminate major enemy formations and reshape strategic balance throughout the Pacific theater. In those critical 15 minutes on March 3, 1943, skip bombing attacks proved that air power could achieve what months of submarine warfare or surface engagement might not accomplish. The complete destruction of the Japanese convoy established principles of air superiority over naval forces that remain fundamental to modern military doctrine. Allied crews had not only achieved a tactical victory, but had fundamentally altered the nature of warfare itself. This episode revealed how tactical innovation, combined with superior intelligence and coordinated execution, could achieve strategic objectives in minutes rather than months. Leave a like, subscribe, and share in the comments your thoughts about how the Battle of the Bismarck Sea established air power doctrine that continues to influence naval warfare today.